You know what I love about toy photography, especially when we talk about sets, is that very often you pick something up, something that's just might just be lying around in nature, on a trail or something like a twig or like a little small branch or something. But then in the photo, it looks like a massive tree trunk, and it still
Yeah,
has that
exactly.
realism. Because I remember for one of the platypod videos, I created like a diorama, basically out of dirt and moss, and some pebbles that I picked up
Right.
and stuff like that. But in the shot, it literally looked like they were like, you know, in the middle of the redwoods. It was like everything just looked
For sure.
because of the scale, I suppose. It
It
just
is.
makes a completely different impression.
Is it a planet where they have huge oak trees and those are huge oak leaves? I don't know. But it's always a reminder to, always kind of check and double check the settings you're putting your setting up in, because even as a wedding photographer, you'd go in and you take a bunch of photos and you'd get them in the computer later and you'd notice that at the bottom of the bride's foot was a water bottle she put down. It's like, oh my gosh. So you either have to forget that image or you have to, Photoshop it out. So those are the kind of things that I still do. I'll still go through, and it's not necessarily stuff like that, but it's like, oh, I didn't realize that the hand was turned around the opposite way that it should have been, or something like that. Still infuriating as it was back when the water bottle thing happened during wedding photography. It's like you just try to really look at your look and look and look. So the less stuff you have to correct later in post is nice, you know.
The reason why I thought that was an interesting aspect to talk about is because I know that you started your sort of photographic career as a wedding photographer, and of course, at some point, you decided to go into toy photography. Now, take us back a little bit to the point where what motivated you to swap out wedding or to move from wedding photography into toy photography and take that leap? Because it's always connected to a degree of risk going to that.
Yeah, very risky. It's really I had a really simple, obvious reason for ending the wedding photography career. It was 2015. My daughter was just entering high school. She was a competitive swimmer. She had a lot of activities going on. And unfortunately, weddings only happen on the weekends. So I was missing almost everything. Every time I missed a swim meet, a little piece of me felt like it died inside, because I'm like one of her biggest fans, obviously. But if I knew what I know then, I think it would have helped a lot. So whenever I talk to people, like I've given talks and stuff, one of my key takeaways from my journey is that, well, there's two things: find a niche, and it's never too late to switch gears and try something different. Those are my two huge learnings. Yeah.
What was just the first step when you thought like, oh, toy photography is definitely something I can get into, but then, somehow I'm going to also got to pay the mortgage or the rent. How did you go about turning, a hobby, for the lack of a better word, into something that can actually help you sustain your living costs and stuff?
Yeah. So great question. And first of all, I'll say that finding a niche is not easy. I can tell people to find a niche all day long, but in the end, it took me a long time to find it. So I don't even know if it's possible to find it at will, or if it actually finds you. Um, so let me tell you what happened. So after I decided that I was going to pursue toy photography as my career, I took 1 year to just focus on developing my style, building portfolio. Um, I had all of the gear, or most of it, from when I was wedding photographer, and from the years before that when I was shooting portraits and headshots and corporate photography. Um, but you go through savings. But I'll tell you what the real, like a huge part of it was: my wife also worked. So while I had her back when she was going to school, and not bringing any income, sh- at the point of where in 2015 she was a full-time like a ceramic sculpture instructor at a college. So it's teamwork for sure, and it's savings. Um, and so there's a lot of people I know that have asked, I want to be a professional toy photographer. Um, it's risky. I'll say that much. It's risky. But what I would always tell them is don't quit your job. You know, start doing it. Just start doing it in the time that you have off from your job. From there, progressing, put together a portfolio. From there, make it a side hustle. And from there, when that side hustle starts, when you start when having your full time job begins to cost you money, that's when you cut the cord to that job and just start doing it full time.